What's up, guys? Now those are some nice numbers for critical and for overpower damage. Also the overall damage pretty nice. Let's hope you enjoyed the video. Do you add some more comments along the way? Just the numbers are insane. The overall priority path isn't that bad. Though it is with the lower numbers, of course. Later on the boss you'll see some of the better numbers, however I didn't actually capture the full combo prequel. And here goes the little drawback. When Boss Storm is down, you kinda die. It's really not really that great of a build when you're playing solo. It's better if you are playing this build when you're playing with at least one more person. However, you can see how fast it's clearing the room. As long as you don't have ballistas for little giants. Especially considering the very low HP and armor. However, with Bone Storm, Fortify and Shield, you're pretty much safe to go. And here is a small issue again with Bone Storm going down. Kinda make things a little harder. And once the Bone Storm is up again no issue. The rotation is pretty nice. You can always have 4 corpses pre-loaded and just wait for a 5th one to activate almost 50% multiplicative damage. The gear also isn't the best in every playthrough. Still pretty much does the job. The only major downfall is when you're going on single targets or small number targets, the assisted variation is very bad. Well, at least you can use Corpse Explosion to regain some of the essence. The build has absolutely zero blood orb effects involved. But however, having those 4 corpses already waiting for you pre-loaded before a fight is always nice. Also, the build is heavily reliant on cursing with Iron Maiden and periodical hits with the Reef are of a great damage reduction increase. Could probably be some better aspects of the build, but actually still didn't have enough time to waste to redo my Paragon levels. And also haven't actually checked if maybe slightly combining borders in the build, or at least one form of essence regen, because the build currently has absolutely zero essence regen except some small lucky hits, and the lucky hit bonus on the character is actually zero. Or that's not a problem, at least for zooming to a dungeon. It's a bit harder on bosses, though it depends on the one. Mostly the major damages. And here we go again with a kind of bad luck with the ballista. The main issue with the build is essence regen and survivability. Though I did go for max damage, at least close to max. And that was a bit close on the ballista. Could have been worse. At least you can see that the rotation is for max damage is a bit annoying because you're having to rely on both corpse tentacles, the helm, and the pre-loaded corpses. Actually, I did try another build with the same build with the roaming 30% increased damage for 7 seconds. The numbers were higher, but overall survivability wasn't that better. And again the ballista fell. As I said, sadly isn't really the best build for single runs. Though even with higher HP, it's still pretty much the same. And again the ballista strikes. So at least we're close getting to a boss. Now we can see the better issues with regenerating essence on single targets. Even though at least I got with some extra bone spirits or bone storm shards. I could actually make the build work better with survivability, but I really don't see the point in just getting useless armor. And at least in my opinion, it's definitely useless armor. And here we switch to a 5k damage. And of course I forgot to enter with 4 reload corpses, so it is taking about half the time long, double the time it should be to get him down. And overall as it started. And now a few fast cuts for the bonus damage, and once we get the 5 for corpses, boss pretty much goes down almost instantly. Full resist, 4k weapon damage, critical could be higher, and here we don't actually have pushed the overpower to its full limit, just because I didn't want to waste an elixir. Also, not all my glyphs that I'm using are maxed, actually one is at level 1. That's not a big deal, however, it will save me about 2 Paragon points when I max it out, or at least I get it to 15. Cheers guys, and let's see about what the Paragon points are in the skills, and mainly the items. So we have the God Slayer. We could get some more damage, even though slightly. Mainly more HP. The armor is slightly below max, though it does the job. However, I'm still switching between armor regen and bone storm regen for shields on the armor. So far I stayed for bone storm barrier regeneration. It's slightly better, however, in other parts of the game it's better for the armor. The gloves are about mid-range on critical, could be way better. Small resource regen and melee for both search. Also overpowered bonus damage when you overheal, and with this build we are kinda overhealing a lot. The boots, the legs are only missing 4% more damage reduction from cursed enemies, everything else is perfect. But we get a very high increase overpower damage from this. Boots are actually... I can't actually find better pulls than this so far. 8% damage reduction missing here, though at least it's helping with the ultimate reduction. The sword is pretty much great, only missing 10 crits, 10 overpower and about 4% critical strike, core skill damage and 12% on the close to damage enemies. However, we do have about 200% on there, though we can boost stuff from here. The talisman also missing 2.5% critical and 10% overpower, though that also increases our overpower damage when you crit, and we do have a high crit chance. It's 45% crit without the bone storm. Boulder rings could be slightly better, mainly missing some physical damage and some damage to close enemies on both rings. And actually the critical strike chance could be better spent with actually having critical strike damage that pushes above 1k critical. Also one of the rings could actually be with regening 50 essence on against damage to vulnerable targets. That could majorly help the regen on bosses. And here we get the stats. Those are the stats for dungeon running before the boss. 1k less the weapon damage, some small difference in attack speed bonus. Mainly the critical strike damage and the overpower greatly reduced. However, it's not that bad. Also, damage is slightly reduced. Though at least here we get some bonus armor and bonus life, though slightly better. It's only slightly above 1k life better, and slight armor boost of about 2k. I did try the same build with about 24k life and full armor, and actually didn't see quite a major difference in survivability for some reason. So I'm guessing the game is quite glitchy yet. We do get some small essence, maximum essence on with from the shields, but it's nothing major. The helm here is just some random crap that I got just to use the monster barrier generation. It at least does have better barrier generation percentages and some total armor. And mid-range wife. The Sovereign is helping somewhat with the survivability though. Barrier generation could be double instead of none. The damage reduction could also be better, quite better. Though at least it's giving us some extra barrier and more damage reduction for faster zooming through the dungeon. Temerity also helps with the armor and the life. Mainly the barrier generation is greatly increased. And considering we're constantly overhealing, that's nice. The one-hand weapon is pretty much nice. Maybe the damage to sword enemies could be something better. And sadly the 20%, 25% barrier generation damage increase is maybe not as better as having 25% sacrifice. However, depending on what you're doing for casual mobs, is nice. Or at least for dungeon running normal dungeon units. The shielding storm also has some pretty low essence and pretty low bone storm generation. However, it's decent enough. And now we go for the vampiric powers. Undying for 3% life regen when you are casting skills. Not quite a lot, but it's still overhealing. Fortify regen on killing enemies. Mainly when we have more fortify, we have 8% critical strike chance increase. But boil for the extra overpower every 20 seconds. It can also overpower other skills, not only bot skills. So that is also nice. Having the 1% max life heal for every enemy hits about every 4 seconds is pretty nice. Damage actually isn't that good. And prey on the weak for 16% multiple increased damage against vulnerable enemies. And considering we're making vulnerable enemies with corpse tentacles, that's nice. Book of the Dead, currently sacrificed for maximum resistance, however, you can also sacrifice skirmishes for 5% increased critical strike chance, which is actually about 8% with Memento Mori. On skeletal mages we of course have overpower increase for sacrifice, and that is 25%. With Memento Mori it's about 38 or something. And for the golem we sacrifice for the 30% critical strike damage increase. That with Memento Mori is about 45% I think. Worst case you can go for HP though. It is kinda useless. You can only use it early game. And for the Paragon we get 5% damage, 20% damage with 4% max HP, 2% max HP, 5% damage. Actually those 2% max HP we can remove. Another 2% maximum life. And we go for overpower damage. 300% overpower damage just from here. And when you increase the multiplier here, it's nice. 5% damage, 5% damage, 20% damage, some slight intelligence, again 5% damage. And now we continue to 22% overpower, 5% damage, 90% overpower with 10% damage, more overpower, and again 5% damage. Now, Blood Orb healing is pretty useless, however, this is the shortest way to get this, and this is again 10% multiplicative damage against cursed enemies. And we also get increase in overpower damage here. This is pretty useless, however, we need to click it to save points to get more overpower damage. About 150-60 overpower damage just from this. On the top side we get 7.5% critical, 15% critical strike damage, with some damage to healthy enemies, and another 7.5% critical strike damage. Then we go for set of deaths, mostly for the damage reduction. However, on bosses we get more damage, more critical strike damage, and here we're missing actually the dexterity to get better stats. Here we get 50% damage to close enemies, and again 10% damage reduction from close enemies. This is helping quite a lot. And now we're going for, again, damage to injured enemies and more critical strike damage. Damage to injured enemies, damage to injured enemies, critical strike damage, critical strike damage. And we're going for Flesh Eater. Main damage boost. And here we have some damage to elites. More damage to elites. And here we get 10% increased damage while multiplicative while we have no active minions. Another nice boost. And some resistance to get the glyph active. Now we go for some extra bonus. 134% critical strike damage. And critical strikes deal 22% multiplicative damage against injured enemies. Damage while fortified, damage while fortified, some dexterity for the critical, damage while fortified, and here we can actually drop some of the fortified damage to try and get some more stats somewhere. This is here we can get some more critical strike damage actually, if we go for 5 more points spent here to get all the dexterity nearby. This will push us with better rings to above 4k, 5k, 1k. Again, more damage while healthy and overpower. And going for Fortify regen, damage while fortified. Second damage while fortified we can remove. More damage while fortified. And we're constantly fortified. 25% increase in overpower, the percents multiplicative. And we go for you and your minions do increased 10% multiplicative physical damage, and what skills are physical. Here when we level up the glyph we can actually save those 2 points on the top that are extremely useless and get the 2 points on the right. That way we can increase even more our critical strike damage when we capture the 2 intelligence on the right. We can stay on this, but it is kind of pointless considering it just doesn't give you enough skills. And main skill, Rip, Enhanced Rip, and Takawai Rip for that 1 corpse. That's perfect for bosses. Also we have the 15% damage reduction for 2 seconds, which does help. And now we go 3 maximum essence just to get to the 59% more essence cost but 15% increased damage on core skills. Boat search on max, enhanced boat search. At our current gear we have 100% weapon damage as boat search. Oh, that's pretty nice for the damage. Also the healing from boat search is nice. Here we have every 5 overpowers, every 5 casts you get an overpower. However, depending on your situation, you can try to go for supernatural blood search for 20% more damage when you have 45. Heal flash for increased corpse regen on bosses. That does help with both damage increase and essence regen. Single point in corpse explosion, so you get a bonus damage. Treating Grim Harvest and treating Fueled by Death for max damage and max regen with corpses. And here we get 6% more damage to close enemies and some more damage reduction. One skill in Iron Maiden, one skill in Enhanced Iron Man, so you get essence from it, and you heal for 7% of your max life when enemies affected by Iron Maiden die. That helps a lot. Amplified damage on max, 12% for normal. Drain Vitality on max, so we have a better Fortify. Bonus damage for blood skill overpower. More damage for blood skills while healthy, we're mostly healthy. And increased health regen. Single point in corpse tentacles, enhanced corpse tentacles, and making them vulnerable, which again increases our damage. And down here we have standalone maxed. 18% damage reduction is nice, and Memento Mori for 60% increase on the sacrifices. Bone Storm with all its upgrades for damage reduction and critical strike damage. And Ratma's Vigor. Overall, when we switch to the damage gear and the full overpower, the only difference in the skill tree is we just get 2 more points in amplified damage, making it 20%. Combined with the other skills, it's against the cursed enemies you get 30% multiplicative increased damage. And also damage reduction. So that's nice. Everything else stays the same.